Hi there, my name's Rou. I'm the publishing editor at IK Surf magazine, and I'm here today to talk to you about the all-new Enduro V5. If you're a fan of Ozone kites, you'll know a little bit about the Enduro already. It's their do-it-all machine aimed to be a Swiss Army knife that you can take to the beach. You can ride freestyle, you can ride big air and free ride, you can foil with it, and you can wave ride with it. There's lots of fans of this kite around the world, so I'm sure they'll be keen to see what's new with the V5. As ever with Ozone, they only release the new kite when they're ready, when they feel they've developed it and it's different enough from the existing kite and it's adding some strong performance benefits. Let's get into what the Enduro V5 is all about, have a little chat about the features, how it performs and what's new and what you can expect when you come to ride it. So I mentioned right at the beginning, it's a do-it-all kite. They really achieve that by having what they call variable bridle geometry. What that means is the bridle can actually be tuned to a different shape to allow the kite to perform in different ways. It's also a 16-point bridle system, which they've taken from the Vortex, which is their really popular big air kite with the Alula construction, and they've brought that to the Enduro. So that's one of the new features for this year, but the variable bridle geometry remains. There's a freestyle setting, which lets the kite sit a little bit further back in the window, gives it a little bit more power and reduces the steering so it doesn't move as quickly. It also gives you a little bit of give, so when you unhook the kite and you power up on the edge, you get a little bit of release delay so that you can perform those tricks like a rayleigh or handle pass or flat three, whatever you want to do without the kite pulling too much. So that's the freestyle setting. You then move it up a notch and you get to the big air free ride setting, and what that tunes the kite for is maximum lift on takeoff, maximum hang time and a really floaty jumpy feel to it. What's really impressive with the Enduro V5 is just how high it will go. It absolutely boosts like a machine, especially when you've got the kite set up properly. By putting it on the big air and free ride setting, you're going to increase your jumps, get a lot more height and a lot more hang time as well. Lastly, there's a wave setting and a foil setting. Now what this does is it tunes the bridle to allow the kite to turn really quickly on its axis. It also lets the kite drift a little bit better, sits in the window and just kind of hangs when you're riding down the line. I'm a big wave riding fan and 7 meters is normally my go-to at this time of year, and I've been using this kite a lot in the waves. It's got a really instant turn to it. You pull on the bar and the kite really responds quickly and dynamically, especially in cross onshore conditions, and it's got a lovely feel and a flow as you fly it around the window. So that variable bridle geometry is a really key feature of the Enduro. A lot of kites out there are 3-strut do-it-all kites, but they use the same bridle setup with maybe a couple of tuning options on the back lines. This still has tuning options on the back lines for bar pressure, but you can actually tune the bridle right at the very front of the kite to actually maximize the way it performs in the air. I mentioned bar pressure there. One of the key new features of the V5 was to reduce the bar pressure but keep that same lively steering feel, and they've done that this year. The bar pressure is really light, you don't really feel too much in there, but there's enough feedback to know where the kite is at all times. So you're kind of flying it without having to really think about it, which is a really nice feature of the kite. What I would say is the 16-point bridle section coupled with this new flatter profile shape in the middle really enhances the boosting of this kite over the V4 previously. I rode the V4 a couple of years ago now, I think, in Ireland, and I really enjoyed riding it. It's a lovely kite, but whilst it's a do-it-all, sometimes there's a little bit of a compromise there, so perhaps it wasn't as good at jumping. And especially now with the Vortex, which a lot of people are going for, what they tried to do was give this kite real maximum big air capabilities so it can compete on par with the Vortex. Vortex obviously is made out of Alula, costs a pretty penny, heaps of performance in that kite, but you're going to find very similar performance characteristics with the Ozone V5 Enduro. So that's really good news if you're looking for a high performance big air kite, but you don't want to spend crazy Alula money. Now, Ozone are really good with all their materials. They make their kites light anyway. This kite is beautifully manufactured in their factory in Vietnam, which is worth looking into. They have their own factory. They control everything. The quality of the kites that come out of there is absolutely impeccable. They don't put unnecessary lumps and bumps and protective bits and pieces on the kite at all. All you'll find is a few protectors on there, so if you are self-launching and landing on the beach, you're not going to damage it. And the stitching, everything is done to a really high standard to ensure you get lots of strength, lots of durability without just over-engineering the kite for weight's sake. So you've got a really lightweight kite that's super responsive. So another feature on the Enduro V5 is they've actually built tension into the canopy. Now, often when you blow up a kite, you'll find that the canopy's just flappy and really flexible. But in this area of the kite here, there's a lot of tension. And what that does, when the kite's flying in gusty conditions, in windy conditions, it just holds its shape. And as you know, a kite that holds its shape well isn't going to be bouncing around, isn't going to be jellyfishing, it's going to be nice and solid in the air. And that's what you want when you're riding overpowered, gusty, crazy conditions, trying to get those big jumps on the Rou. Now, I've ridden it in waves a lot. I've done a bit of freestyle with it. I'm not the best freestyler these days, and a 7 metre wouldn't be my go-to freestyle kite, so I've only chucked a few Rayleighs out. But the thing that I notice most is that the characteristics of the kite do actually change when you change those settings on the bridle. Sometimes you just feel a little bit of a difference in the bar pressure, but you really notice a difference in the way the kite steers, a difference in the way the kite handles, and you find you can really tune it to how you want to ride. I've mostly been riding it in the waves and the wave setting and big air, and it's really nice just to come down the beach, and when you see the waves aren't quite there but the wind's pumping, you can just change the bridle quickly, get the twin tip out the van and go and send it for some big jumps. And the performance on this kite is absolutely incredible. It's really fast, it's really dynamic to steer, it's super versatile, the build quality is fantastic. I've been really impressed. So I think if you can get yourself a ride on one, have a demo, you're going to really like it. It's an improvement over the V4 in the sense that it's got slightly less bar pressure than the previous years, and also this increased boosting ability. They've developed that through the planform shape of the kite to reduce the bar pressure, and also by opening up the middle section to help it boost, coupled with that 16-point bridle, which has come straight from the high-performance Vortex. On the rear of the kite, you've got 3 position options to tune the rear lines, so you can increase the turning speed, decrease the turning speed, and increase the bar pressure. So it really gives you an opportunity to almost customize the way you kite. You've got 3 settings on the front bridle, 3 settings on the rear. You can really tune how you want that kite to fly, get it dialed in for exactly what you want. Build quality is second to none. If you're a fan of Ozone, you're going to know all about these kites and just how good they are. If you're looking for a 3-strut all-round kite that's really good in big air, then this is a great kite to consider, especially if you're into wave riding like me. I often find that I end up riding a wave kite and using that for big air, which works well, but it doesn't give you the real boosting potential. Whereas this kite's phenomenal in the waves, and when I want to boost a big jump on a twin tip, I can just tune that bridle, send it to the moon. That's a really nice feature to have, because it just means that when you get to the beach, you're not thinking about having 2 kites or a kite for this and a kite for that. You've just got 1 kite, and it truly does it all. That's always been the remit of the Enduro, and I think this year they've really nailed it, especially by improving the big air characteristics, which they've certainly done. In terms of relaunch, when you crash the kite, as you'd expect from Ozone, it's pretty easy. Just pull on the back line, the kite will pop up. It's also survived a few wipeouts in the waves, hasn't really got too tangled, and I've noticed it just pops back up and is really easy to relaunch. So there's a big thumbs up from me on that one. In terms of the turning speed, as I mentioned before, it's really dynamic, and when you engage the bar, it really starts to turn and really starts to move. So I've been super impressed with that. Overall, it's an amazing kite. I was promised a 9 metre and a 7. They've only sent me the 7. I wish they'd send me the 9, because I could probably spend most of the winter with a 9 and the 7 in the back of the van and not need anything else. These kites cover it off. They've got a really big wind range. The top end of this 7 is absolutely huge. You can hold it down in monster winds, and it's not too bad in the low end as well. If you just speed up the turning, you can generate a lot of speed out of it. Something that I also noticed, which I think is classic to Ozone kites, they've got quite a thin profile leading edge, which helps them with speed through the air, and that keeps the kite light as well. So that's something else to look out for. But the build quality, flying characteristics, the fact that it's so versatile, you're going to get an awful lot out of this kite any chance you get it on the water.